than your currency. Splurging millions, buying houses like Monopoly. Fucking 9 to 5, man, the money is a joke to me. Buying cryptocurrency, my money in the private.
Hey guys and girls, welcome to this week's episode of the B.Invested Birchy podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Birch. This is a show unraveling the truth to the facade of the 21st century. We're now exiting the matrix and waking up to motherfucking reality. Always love saying that, eh? Everyone loves it, right? I had a lot of people requesting that recently, right? They just love the song. You won't find out there, it's my mate wrote it. So today I want to talk about how to double your cash flow. And a lot of people are sitting out there going, okay, I've got 50 grand a year income, how can I double that to 100 grand? I've got 100 grand income, how can I double it to 200? How can I replace that income? And I talk about this quite often. I actually did a 2.5 hour webinar on this recently, and I'll put a little link at the bottom of this description on this video for you to be able to download and access that webinar. It's a very full-on version of this. I have different sorts of scenarios and examples and stuff like that in there, and people have been coming back to me saying they've been watching it twice and 3 times on that podcast, on that webinar. So there's a link if you're watching this from the video in the description or underneath this me talking right now for you to be able to go and get access to that webinar. But a lot of people want to know, how can you double your income? And it made me question when I got asked to do this podcast, what was it like for me when I first started trying to double my income? And the only thing I knew when I first started getting income was to sell my time, right? And selling my time was all I knew because that's all I was told. I didn't know, okay, you can go and replace it and get a passive income or whatever. I saw people doing businesses and I thought business is very hard. I saw my own family do business. You got to buy a bit of stock. You got to make sure it doesn't die. When I say the stock doesn't die, it's like, fish. I grew up in a fish shop. I talked about it beforehand to you guys, but it could be inventory. May as well make sure no one steals it from your business, whatever the case may be. So a lot of risk that's around that. So I used to think, okay, what can I do to double my income? And I thought, well, the average income was at the start of the year, around the year 2000, was 50 grand a year, 40 grand a year. So you could go and 140 grand a year income. The only way I knew how to double my income at the start was to go and get a second job, right? And literally sell, 20 hours of my day, sell away my use, trade away my time in order to get double the amount of income. And that's pretty stupid. It was pretty bad. But at the time, that's all I knew, right? And then I see most people, they got 2 people, right? So they team together. They call it called marriage. They go out and fall in love, get married. You got 2 incomes then going in. So they've got double the amount of funds going into their households, which is good. So you can go and invest it. If you see really wealthy family bloodlines in that, and especially non-Western cultures, you see the whole family group together, and they might, buy assets together, and they pool that money together, and it's all a part of the family, and that's what intergenerational wealth does sometimes as well. So looking at different sort of ways like that, that's very much, if you're having to sell your time, it's very limited. You can't scale it. It's on the ability that you're healthy, you're well, you've got youth on your side and all that sort of stuff. But people get to 30, they can't do it. They might go get married, they might go get kids, all that sort of stuff. You don't want to be away from them. Then you get to older stages, you can't feel up for it when you're too tired. And, how can you double that? So for me, I just went and worked 2 jobs, and then I invested all of that income into buying more property. And then from all those properties, then I was like, I didn't know any concept about having to pull equity and all these sort of things. But then it grew over time. What was equity? I didn't even know what equity was, right? And then I was like, hang on a second. I could save up. I could earn 100 grand, pay lots of tax, lose 30% in tax. I end up with 70 grand. And then, the property and everything around me has gone up by another 200 grand. So the more that you save, the further everything gets further and out of distance. So then I realized how the property market worked like that. And I thought, okay, I'll build a strategy to get there. I got to 10, 20, 30 properties, 50 properties, so on and so forth. But then, you get stuck, and it's like, how do you push forward from here? And it's all a matter of, there's been times where I've had to just change that mindset, right? And just one little bit of mindset, I can double my position overnight. And there's been times where I started on the media and that, where I had 25 properties, and I got to 50 properties very quick. Then I got from 50 to 100 properties very quick. Got 100 to 200 properties very quick, and then sort of hit a plateau. It's like, okay, how do I keep moving forward? How am I going to be a billionaire? So I can get there from development, I can get it from buy and holds, I can get there from hyperinflation, I can get there from buying high cash flowing properties, I can get there from using other forms of financial instruments in order for me to be able to build up that leverage to be able to go on and keep pushing forward. So I look at my position, there's been probably about 4 or 5 times in my journey where I've been able to double overnight. I believe in the last 2 years of this scamdemic, right? Also the opportunity out there for people that were scared, people that had motels, people can't go get finance, right? The reason why your houses have gone up, the reason why everything's gone up is due to the fact that people have got access to money to be able to go buy those things. But when you look at things like a motel, you have a big block of land, you have a lot of building infrastructure in on it, but people can't go get a loan for it, right? You might put down a 50% deposit. People don't have $3 million for a deposit and then $3 million for the other part of the loan. People don't have those sorts of things sitting in their disposal, but I have, because I've done all the little legwork to go and play the game of Monopoly and be able to build up to that level. But understanding how that works and thinking, okay, this is a strategy that I can repeat, rinse and repeat, Control C, Control V, and go over and over and over again, then you got a strategy that works, you just keep working with it. And I see that in the last 2 years, I've probably been able to double my net worth position, double my property portfolio, double my holdings from the types of assets that I'm accumulating, collecting along the way. I wouldn't say I've doubled there yet, but there's lots of other businesses and certain things that I've bought. So the same strategy that I've got behind my motel business, which has got me to like 30 plus motels now. I just did a deal on a block of 83 motels today, right? Like there's 2 motels I bought today, 4 in the last week, and 2 other types of businesses that are unrelated to this. Out of the businesses, I got the business on a special sort of arrangement, which meant that I could take over the building from the business as well. So I'm accumulating businesses that are inside of buildings, right? And that's a whole other sort of thing. But it's breaking through that mindset and doing the shit you may not have to do and looking at how can that expand, right? So I look back to the start. I'm on 40 grand a year, 50 grand a year. How do I get to 100 grand a year? Okay, I'll go get a second job. Now I've got 100 grand. I can't go and get 4 jobs to get to 200 grand a year. So I've got to go and change my tactics. So I've got the cash flow coming through. I then go and buy some properties. I go start off with buying a couple of properties. I thought if I could have 10 properties, that'll replace 50 grand a year. I get to 10. I thought that was, I couldn't get to 10 properties from the age of 18 to 30 was my initial thought. So how the fuck could I get to 10? But I'll just get to 10 in the next 12 years. I got there when I was like 21, 22. When I got there 21, 22, I was like, hang on a second, I think that I can do something greater than this, right? So then I thought, okay, I'll get to 20, I'll get to 25, I'll get to 50, I'll get to 100, right? I don't even have a goal for how many thousands I want to get, right? I just have a net worth position, I have a cash flow position, and every time that I've had to step up, I've had to change the person that I have to become the newer person, right? And I've always looked at what do I have at my disposal for me to be able to lever up and be able to take to that new level of where I want to be. At the start, I was just starting out, right? I only had my time, I had my mind, I had my body, I had my ability to go and sell my time for money. And then I took that and I went and bought assets. I started investing in assets and I diversified those assets and I diversified those assets even more. I got even more of those assets and I keep expanding. And I look at it and it's like, how can you have constant growth? And it scares me to a point where in like 5, 10, 15 years, like the amount of billions that could be coming through in cash flow, I wouldn't even know what I'm going to invest into next because there's just not enough things to gobble up. But it's being able to compound your efforts, compound the certain things that you need to do. So I guess, if you're on 50 grand a year, right, it's very easy to get to 100 grand a year, right? You could get a different job, you could get a second job, you could do certain things, you could set up a little business, right? The most easiest way would just be going with your current job, use that income, the servicing, whatever savings, whatever sort of equity you may have in any other sort of asset, to then go and buy just 3 properties, right? If you want to replace 50 grand income, 3, 4, 5 properties may be all it takes in order to be able to replace the income. But people aren't thinking that. They're thinking, okay, a property at $1 million, it's too expensive, right? But you can buy a property for 100 grand. You can buy a property for 200 grand, right? To get into a property for 200 grand might only cost you $40,000, might cost you $20,000, might cost you $30,000, might cost you $50,000. But the barrier of entry is quite easy, right? It's accessible. People can go and get those funds. I was just having a chat to someone before, and they're like $8,000, $10,000 short, and it's like, we'll find a way to get you there. It's like, we'll just be able to go and find it, right? You can make this happen. But most people are sitting there without questioning, without pushing themselves to be able to get to that next level. So if you're starting off and you want to double 50 to 100 grand, well, then you can just keep selling your time, but you're going to get capped out at a very small point. But when your mindset changes, you go, hang on a second, I could leverage assets around me. I could leverage other types of assets. I could leverage those assets to get into other assets, right? I could leverage 5 units to get into a block of 10 units, right? A lot of people say to me, Nathan, I want to start off with, I want to buy a block of duplex, I want to buy a block of quadplex, I want to buy a block of units. That's the best thing. And I'm like, hang on a second, your risk that you're leaving on the table is you're looking two-dimensional. You're just looking at one element, but you're leaving out all the risk and all the other opportunity costs. So, if you were to go out and buy, if you're on 50 grand, 80 grand, 100 grand, you could save up a little bit of money. You go buy one property. That property provides you a cash flow stream, but it also provides you equity position. So with the equity position, you could use that first property to buy a second property. From the second property, that could have equity, so you could buy the third property. You have those 3 properties, they all go up in value by 10%. So you might have another 2 deposits there to go and buy property number 4 and 5, right? You expand your position out. If you go for a block of units, then everything's tied in it. You have 5 properties, you have 10 properties. Let's say they're 200 grand a piece. 10 properties, 200 grand, that's $2 million. If those 10 properties go up by 10% in the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, whatever that is, that's $200,000 worth of your net worth position that has gone up in value. And you go, okay, 200 grand. If I had 200 grand a day, I could go buy a block of units. So it's at that point where you go, okay, hang on a second. My properties have been able to do a certain thing for being able to open up that gate to a new level. And it's just like playing a game on the computer, right? Sega Rally Championship, right? Going through the checkpoint. You play some game, I don't know, I've never been in the games, right? Some game where you get guns and you go through a different level, you get a bigger gun, you get a bazooka, you get an army tank, and you can take over different realms. I see these ads on my Instagram all the time, right? I don't know why they try and sell me computer games, right? Brainwashing and programming. But looking at those games, as you arming yourself up, the bigger that you start getting, you need to look and go, okay, what can I do to push through this level? And I've got this saying, I've said it for many years. I never thought too much of it until one of my mates, Cameron, he just loves it. Every time I speak to him, he's like, new levels, new devils, right? And I've always said that at each level that you try and get through and break through, there's always a gatekeeper. Most people get turned around from the gatekeeper, right? So when there's a gatekeeper there, it's challenging you, it's pushing you, it's a challenge, it's something that you can't get through, it's something that's testing you. That's the test and that's the lesson. That's where the biggest growth comes through, because then once you break through that, you become a different person, right? You have to become a different person to break through. You need a different army, you need different weapons to be able to break through that new level. And I think once you get through the 50 grand to 100 grand, the 100 grand to 200 grand and keep pushing forward, that's the element which you can keep, at each step of my life, I've had to be a different person to get through that level of my life. At each part of my business growth, I've had to be a different person that's had to go through, the challenges of the day to get through business. As each part of a property investor, I've had to become a different level of person, a different person to be able to play at that different game. And, that's the fun things, right? Like, going back 10 years ago, I wasn't talking about the stuff I talk about today because I wasn't pushing through those levels. And, another 5 years, another 10 years, the growth and the development of the mindset will be, far greater than I haven't thought about yet. Otherwise, I'd be there doing it. But you can only look around. I got asked today from someone, do I have a mentor? Did I ever have someone to mentor me? And I always say to people the same answer. Like, I never had a mentor. I didn't have a coach. I never had a course that I went to. But I have been motivated from the things that I want out of life and the things that I don't want to have in life. And I need to identify, if I do this, it's going to get me there. If I do this, it's going to get me there. Where is it that I'm trying to head to? And I need to be that person. I need to look at what do I have at my disposal to be able to get there. You want to cut down a big tree and you've got a butter knife, you ain't going to be able to do it, right? You need to look around. Do I have a car? If I have a car, I could, get a rope and tie the tree and try and yank it out of the ground, right? You get the tree down, you can build a fire, you can build another house, whatever the case may be. So you need to, I think I'm digressing a little bit here, right? But you get my point. Like, you need to have different instruments. You need to look around you at what do you have today, what weapons do you have to be able to take on the battle to get to the next level. And that's something that's very, very important as you're growing your wealth is, are you leveling up? Are you becoming the person you need to be to get to the next level? Are you doing this and you've been doing this for 5 years or 10 years and you haven't got ahead? Have you been doing this for 10 years and you're still working and you haven't had your properties, retire you yet? Have you got enough properties? Have you been respecting your journey enough? Have you been, doing the things that you need to do to grow, expand, and continue to push forward with your position? And they're the sort of things that I think you need to keep looking at. So, if you're on 50, you should be looking at how can I get to 100? If you're at 100 grand, how do I get to 200 grand? How do I keep expanding that? I know throughout my investors that I'm working with currently and over the last, 10, 12, 15 years, I can tell you about clients from 10 years ago that are, in the Bahamas and all that sort of stuff. But I like talking about relevant people because you're watching this today, you're not watching this from 10 years ago going, okay, how can I do that? Because lots of things are different. And I know people that in the last 12 months, they're on 50 grand a year, 80 grand a year, that have got to 10 properties, 15 properties in their portfolio. I know people that have got to 10 properties and their weekly income, right, is almost what their monthly income is from their job. Gross, that is, right? But once you've got the income and the cash flow coming through, that's when you work out how am I going to reduce my debt? How am I going to make the cash flow come through as net cash flow to me and all those sorts of things. If you don't have the assets, well, then you don't have the hooks in the ocean to be able to catch the fish, right? So, just look at your position, constantly review your position. The biggest parts of growth that I've experienced over the last 15, 20 years as being an investor have been the points where I've got to a new level. I found a gatekeeper there. The new levels bring new devils, and you have to push through that, right? And literally over 12 months, you could double your position. I've doubled my positions over 12 months, and I'm still trying to push through those positions today. And I believe, like I've talked to you guys for 7 years ago, I said I'm going to be a billionaire by 40. On my 30th birthday, I said I'd be a billionaire by 40. I've got 3 years to get there. I believe I'm going to be a billionaire. I know what I need to do to be a billionaire. I don't know 100% what I need to do, but I know I've got all the right vehicles in order for me to be able to get there. If I fail at becoming a billionaire by the age of 40, well then, I've fucked up, right? I've wasted opportunity because I know that I've got the right vehicles and the right things there. It's just a matter of pushing through and getting to that $1 billion position. So I'm not going to let that happen. So I've got to keep hustling. So I'm going to leave this video out now. If you guys need help with mindset or pushing yourself through to that next level, feel free to reach out to my team, 1300 367 925. Email us at admin@binvested.com.au. You can subscribe to these videos on Spotify, on Google Play, Apple Play, YouTube, and make sure that you look in the description. There is a webinar, a really, really important webinar to go to, whether you're watching this or if you're watching this from a video, you can see it on the screen and go and click on the video and go from there. So we'll catch up soon. Have a great day, guys. Bye for now.
Like Bilal said, man, we stuck in the matrix. This my advice, don't care if you take it. The dollar back to die, soon to be hyperinflated. This my 2 cents, don't care if you save it. Joint be decentralized and you will see you been lied to the whole time, and it's the irony, cause they do the exact opposite. You become a slave to the system, enough your money, all they do is profit. There's no conspiracy theory, you better hear me. Crypto will set you free before the system does. I don't care if you do or you don't, but what I'm saying is the truth to the reason you choke. I never been a failure, excuse my behavior. Keep talking, haters doing me a favor. They all telling lies, I know what they been telling you. I'm the opposite, the Donald Trump of Australia. It's amazing,